To understand how an entire civilization knows its foundational texts are historically accurate, you have to trace the flow of information backward. When you map out the transmission pathways of early Islamic scholarship, thousands of individual data points condense into a single, highly concentrated human bottleneck, Qutaybah ibn Sa'id. He compiled the oral traditions of his era, and he became the primary instructor to the men who authored the 6 canonical books of Sunni Islam. Tracing his life provides the exact blueprint for how early human networks successfully verified and preserved their history. In the late 8th century, acquiring data meant physically crossing harsh geography like this to find individuals who held historical records in their memories. Qutaybah's footprint was massive. Starting from the remote village of Baghlan in Khorasan, he walked to Iraq, Mecca, Medina, and Egypt to study under the intellectual titans of the age. Early on, he faced a choice in what to study. He initially focused on localized speculative reasoning, known as Rai, rather than verified historical tradition, or Athar. The shift in his focus came after a highly specific dream. He saw a water skin suspended from a dark, starlit sky. While crowds tried and failed to reach it, he stepped up and pulled it down. When he opened the water skin and looked inside, he saw a panoramic view spanning the entirety of the east and the west. A dream interpreter explained the meaning. Speculative opinion is strictly local, but verified transmitted truth spans the globe. From that day forward, Qutaybah dedicated his life to the historical tradition. Decades later, the wandering student settled and became the ultimate master of his field. The most rigorously scrutinized historians of the 9th century, including figures like Al-Bukhari and Muslim, traveled explicitly to sit in his classroom. Historical records describe him as a man of medium build, balding, with a handsome face and a wide beard that gave him a commanding, authoritative presence. He also held immense wealth. He owned massive herds of camels, cattle, and sheep, and he used these resources to fully fund the enormous study circles that gathered around him. This combination of absolute textual mastery and vast financial independence allowed him to function as a centralized, self-sustaining institution. The entire system of Islamic historical preservation relies on the Isnad, an unbroken chain of human verification connecting the present day back to the Prophet. This dataset originates here, rooted in the ancient geography of early Islam, before expanding outward through generations of transmitters. Qutaybah's mental and physical database was staggering. He held roughly 100,000 individual verified narrations in his memory and personal texts. This diagram shows the exact architecture of the data flow. The records passed from foundational teachers like Malik and Al-Layth linearly through Qutaybah, directly to his famous students, and finally into the permanent canonical books. Because he lived nearly 90 years, he reduced the number of links required in the chain. His long life acted as a temporal bridge, significantly shortening the distance between the source material and the future. The scholars of the 9th century operated on rigorous skepticism. They did not accept Qutaybah's vast repository of narrations on trust. We see their peer review system in action through a stress test. Qutaybah transmitted a narration from his teacher, Al-Layth. Reviewers examined this chain and found a discrepancy, a branching transmitter named Khalid al-Madaini. They flagged his mistaken insertion and permanently severed that node from the sequence. Uncovering this anomaly proved the system's integrity. It showed an airtight, self-correcting peer review network, prioritizing data protection over any single teacher's reputation. Despite this intense, lifelong scrutiny, his contemporaries rendered their final verdicts. They universally graded him as entirely trustworthy and a supreme authority in historical transmission. He passed away at nearly 90 years old. By the time of his death, he had successfully downloaded his massive database into the minds and books of the next era. As we look back at history, physical empires inevitably fracture. Grand stone architecture eventually crumbles into dust, leaving only stark, empty landscapes behind. But the verified chains of transmission he helped forge remain intact, smoothly connecting the ancient past to the modern world. Qutaybah ibn Sa'id functioned as the indispensable human bridge, ensuring the foundational truths of a civilization survived the ravages of time.